Welcome back everyone, I'm Cucumber and I'm going to talk today about some of my favorite bosses in Dark Souls 3. As a reminder, Dark Souls 3 was my very first Dark Souls game, so I'm a baby when it comes to the world and universe of the Soulsborne series. Coming off of that, let me tell you that I personally did not have the easiest time getting through Dark Souls 3 on my first run, and there are still bosses after completing the game almost 10 times that still give me trouble, but at the same time give me the same rush as the first time I killed them. Overall, I gotta say that this list of my favorite bosses in Dark Souls 3 is going to be pretty much the list of bosses that still give me trouble to this day, which is why I find them to be the best in my personal opinion. One preface here is that my opinions on these bosses will be of my current collective opinion after beating them close to 10 times. So while I will be referencing my first playthrough as roots of many of these bosses being on this list, it's really after all the playthroughs I've completed that has refined and coalesced this list. So let's get started on number 5. Of all my favorite bosses, it is easy to say that Soul of Cinder is at the bottom of my personal list. While the fight is a good one to me, considering how I still have trouble with it consistently throughout my playthroughs, it really is bogged down by the RNG aspect of the first phase. It is also to say that, being a Dark Souls 3 baby, that I couldn't get the full experience of the boss because I had nothing to go off of when it came to how he referenced player movesets or straight up became Gwyn during the second phase. I mention that because the boss is deserving of points for those who did get to have that fuller experience, and I appreciate how From gave the Soul of Cinder fight that flair that only select players would be able to see. Funnily, when it comes to me and my personal opinion, I don't actually find the fight necessarily fun? I just don't think that's the correct word. However, it is definitely a worthy last boss and makes me ecstatic when I kill him because I have to go balls to the wall to win, as he provides me with a lot of stress due to my limited skill. And I'm glad that he still provides such a worthy challenge to me after slaughtering many of the bosses in one shot. Number 4. Pontiff Sullivan. I can tell you guys that Pontiff is definitely a lot easier to me than Soul of Cinder is, but at the same time, Pontiff is a lot more fun to me. During my first playthrough, he was the second hardest boss for me, just behind another boss on this list, which I'll get to later. Although, before anyone scoffs, no, I did not learn how to parry until my third or so playthrough, so I stuck to dodging, which makes him a little more difficult with the movesets that last 45 minutes or more. But I want to point out that I'm glad that I did not know how to parry for my first playthrough, because after learning how to do it somewhat consistently, Pontiff's overall difficulty sunk like a rock, which is my main grudge against him. However, that reduced difficulty really boils down to how well I can parry Pontiff on any given attempt, as I'm no guru just yet. On my knight character, I managed to parry him 4 times in a row, and the riposte damage was so high that he died after the 4th riposte. If I were to change Pontiff in any way, I would reduce the riposte damage or increase his health to the point where it is similar to that of Champion Gundyr, where you have to parry more times to kill the boss. All in all though, I still have fond memories of first killing Pontiff on my Herald after dodging and weaving for 5 minutes and finally killing that purple piece of crap so I can have a proper 1v1 against the boss. Funny that I mentioned Gundyr because he is also my third favorite boss. Let me tell you though, Gundyr and Pontiff are the reasons I forced myself to parry in Dark Souls. As I say again, I did not learn how to parry until my third or so playthrough, and having to dodge both Pontiff and Gundyr to death made me want to put a bullet in my temple at times. The thing is though, with Gundyr, parrying does make him easier, but at the same time, if you cannot do it correctly like 80-90% of the time, for me at least, I die. A lot. The worst thing is, in my opinion, and this issue goes across every one of these bosses on the list, bar Pontiff, is that there are playthroughs where I can one-shot these bosses, only for me to try it again on another character. Everything is the same, but I just seem to die more. Whether it be 1, 2, or 8 attempts later, these bosses just come out of the blue and for some reason harder than what I remember. This goes for Gundyr the most overall, and this frustration that I have with him makes this connection that I have with the boss a love-hate relationship. I love to hate him, and he loves to hate me, and that is why he is number 3 on this list. Number 2. This boss was by far the most difficult boss I faced during my first playthrough, bar none. If it wasn't already obvious, I'm not very good against bosses that are either 1, have long movesets, Pontiff, or 2, are really freaking quick, Gundyr. Dancer, however, embodies both of these aspects when she attacks, especially after she gets that second sword of hers. It took me quite literally hours to kill her initially. You can call me bad all you want. You're most definitely right when you say it, because by the time she finally died, I was both crying tears of joy and anger, and I had the weirdest boner at the same time. And let me tell you the worst part about this entire experience. When I went back into New Game Plus and got to her, I already had my pants down and went looking for a barrel. I was gonna get my house rocked. I walk in there, and you know what I do? You know what? I one-shot her. What? I love dancers so much. I got to say, it really could not have been anyone else. The firstborn of Gwyn. I cannot give enough praise to a boss that is both grandiose in scale, but difficulty and the overall wow factor. He is by far my favorite boss because he still turns me upside down and sends me back and forth both emotionally and physically as well, as he tears me a new hole in a different place every time. And I love it. Not only is his difficulty magnificent and fun to deal with, unlike Soul of Cinder, his room, his entrance, his essence itself makes me want to just sit there and stare at him. He is so cool. The Nameless King by himself makes going through Archdragon Peak worth it every single time. One of the best parts about him was that I learned brand new mechanics that I had never seen before after killing him like 6 times. Like, I don't even know what could still be up his sleeve, because as far as I know, he may still even have a moveset I've never witnessed. And that is invigorating, because I could be going through the motions of the fight only for him to pull out a dive attack out of nowhere as if it were an old dog learning new tricks. Not only that, but his second phase truly makes you feel like you're fighting an equal. All the other bosses have that one thing that makes them inferior to you, and the player has to exploit that weakness. But the Nameless King just doesn't have that for me. He is just borderline flawless, in my opinion. I do not think I could give enough praise to this boss, so I'll just have to end it here. This boss. Alright everyone, thanks for watching, and please tell me your favorite bosses from Dark Souls 3. And what do you think about my choices? Do you agree? Disagree? And if you have any questions, quarrels, or queries, be sure to let me know. I'm Cucumber, and remember, fast dressing.